Hi, this is the fifth part of making a simple game using HTML5 canvas and JavaScript. In this episode we will look at using graphics from image files. We will build on what we have done in the previous episodes. If you have not seen them yet, you might want to look at them first. There are links in the description below. We will use the script from episode 4 as a base for what we are doing today. There will also be a link to the script after the changes we do in this episode in the description. In episode 4 we made a Pong type game using filled rectangles for graphics. In this episode we will replace the filled rectangles with graphics from image files. I have made 4 image files in the format PNG that we will use. They will be included in the link below. So we have an image for the background, one for the ball, and 2 images for the paddles. The images for the ball and the paddles has an alpha channel that makes it possible to have parts of the image transparent, which is very useful for anything not shaped as a rectangle, such as a ball. The paddles could just be rectangles, but I decided to have some fun with them, going for a bit of futuristic look. I place the image files in a folder named Content. We need a variable to hold each image. We start with the background image. We will use the constructor newImage to create the image that we will draw on the canvas. We also need to give the address for the file that is the source of the image. We then go to the render function and use the drawImage function to draw the image on the canvas. The X and Y positions is at 0 and 0. We also have removed the rectangle that served as background for the earlier version of the game. We test this and it works quite nicely. There is, however, a possible problem here. The problem would show itself when the game tries to draw an image before it is fully loaded. To handle this possible problem, we go back to the point where we created the variable to hold the image. We create a new variable to hold the information on if the image has been fully loaded. We set that to false to start with. We then use the function onLoad to check if the images has been loaded. When that has happened, we set the variable bgReady to true. OnLoad is a form of event listener. We have used event listeners in earlier episodes. We then go back to the render function and use an if statement so that the image will only be drawn if it is fully loaded. We then use the same method to load and draw the images for the ball and the paddles. These images have parts that are transparent, but we do not need to do anything different for loading and drawing these images compared to the background image that don't have any transparency to it. So now we can load images and draw them on the canvas. We also have a safeguard so that the game will not try to draw anything unless it is fully loaded. In this game with few images and playing it on my own computer with the images already on the computer, the loading and drawing is not really a problem. The computer will handle the loading part without any problem. That can change quickly with more and bigger image files and loading from a server. Anyway, we got that problem sorted, have we not? Well, not completely. Something that can happen is that the images getting drawn at slightly different times. That is not necessarily a good effect for the game. Well, we can do something about that too. We make two new variables, one called scene that we set to 0, and one called loadNumb, which we also set to 0. LoadNumb we use to keep track of how many images have been loaded. We do that by adding 1 to the variable in each of the unload functions. The scene variable we use in the render function. If scene is 0, we will render a green-filled rectangle as background with the text loading in white on top of that. That is what will be shown while the variable screen is set to 0. If the variable scene is set to 1, the actual game will be shown. We should do the same thing under update, restricting updating connected to the actual game to when scene is set to 1. But that is not strictly necessary at this point. What we do need to do under update is to change scene to 1 if loadNumb is 4. Then all images are loaded and we are ready to start the actual game. So now we know how to add graphics, stop it from being drawn if not yet fully loaded, and using a very primitive sort of load screen. Next we will look at sound, but that will have to wait for the next episode. This will be all for now. I hope to see you later. Bye.